You're watching Race to Power. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. This is a show where we get you the biggest political stories globally. On the show today, we tell you how Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is back in the headlines, this time for agreeing to Trump's demand of holding elections in his war-torn country. But the Ukrainian president has a condition. Will the United States and Europe accept? We decode this for you today. Meanwhile, in Japan, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, in fact in France, he has succeeded in getting a crucial part of the budget passed. But the rest of it still awaits the Parliament's approval. Will he be able to do what others couldn't? Our correspondent from Paris gets us more on this. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky took the world by surprise when he agreed to hold elections amid the war, until he put forth his condition. Zelensky has said that his government is prepared to hold elections in the next 2 to 3 months, provided United States and European allies ensure a secure voting process in the war-torn country, essentially security guarantees. The president also issued instructions to his government to make necessary constitutional amendments that pave the way for elections. Listen in.
Я прошу, щоб депутати нашої фракції, в принципі, наші парламентарі, підготували законодавчі пропозиції щодо можливості зміни законодавчих основ і закону про вибори під час воєнного стану. Підготували це для мене. Я завтра буду в Україні. Я очікую пропозицій від партнерів, очікую пропозицій від наших депутатів і готовий йти на вибори.
Now, Zelensky's statement, remember, comes as a response to the American president accusing him of using the war to evade an electoral process. This is not the first time that Trump has tried to pressure Zelensky into conducting elections. The US president's remarks mirror a demand that Russia has been making for long now, as a condition in the peace deal. Putin has repeatedly called Zelensky an illegitimate leader. In the past, the Russian president has also said that a peace deal with Ukraine is legally impossible unless it is with a legitimate leader from the country. Ukrainians elected Zelensky back in 2019 with a decisive margin. His term, remember, as the president ended in May 2024. But Ukraine's constitution prohibits elections when the country is under martial law. Even in a scenario that the law is changed to conduct polls, practical challenges remain. For instance, Ukrainian military personnel will be unable to vote with active front lines. Then there are thousands of citizens who fled Ukraine since the war began in February 2022. Now remember, in the past 3.5 years, Zelensky's government has also been rocked by corruption scandals. However, there is little discourse within Ukraine about a need for the country to go into polls while the war with Russia is still on. All right, let's get a perspective on this latest statement by Volodymyr Zelensky. We're joined by Olena Tregub. She's Secretary General of Independent Defense Anti-Corruption Committee and Defense Expert. She's joining us live from Kyiv at the moment. Olena, thanks very much for joining us on WION. Can I first understand from you how Ukrainians are viewing this statement? Are they seeing this as a delaying tactic by Zelensky because he knows that perhaps defeat is imminent? Or this is a firm response and rather a taunt to President Trump that, look, if you give us security guarantees, I'm ready to hold elections anytime soon?
First of all, good afternoon. First of all, I wanted to tell to your viewers that it's actually not President Zelensky, but it's Ukrainian civil society, including my organization, who a few years ago, wrote multiple statements and letters to European Union, to United States, saying that Ukrainians do not want to have election during war and explaining why. It's not about Zelensky. It's just because we cannot have election during war. It is impossible. Right now, what is happening, that Zelensky said that he's ready. Of course, I do believe that he's ready, that he is not really using the war to stay in power like Trump says. But the condition for this election is not only the legislative changes that we need to do in the constitution, but the ceasefire. Ceasefire. Not peace negotiation, but the actual ceasefire when there are no drones flying, no missiles flying, that it's illegal, it's impossible to ask people to come to the voting precinct and 100 people will come and Russian missile will kill 100 people. And who will be responsible for that? Would it be Ukrainian state who allowed people to gather during the martial law? Do you understand these legal implications? And this is why if Russia is ready to do the ceasefire, if Donald Trump can push Russia to do ceasefire, of course we can have election. But in my opinion, Russia will not guarantee ceasefire. Russia will not stop shooting. Why Russia cannot stop shooting? So that we have ceasefire and we conduct peace negotiation. Did you ask this question? And my answer is that this is because Russia doesn't want to stop the war.
And therefore, Elena, what is the way forward? Since Ukrainians want elections, but not amid the war. In fact, Zelensky's own opponents, political opponents, have also been saying, let the war get over, only then we should hold elections. And therefore, what's the way forward according to you? Because obviously Donald Trump and the European allies of Ukraine have not been giving the kind of security guarantees that President Zelensky has been demanding from them.
The way forward is to convince Russia to at least pause the war, at least have their ceasefire, start peace negotiation. And this can be done through pressure on Russia. Right now, America, instead of pressuring Russia, is pressuring Ukraine. Europe is not pressuring Russia enough. And as a result, this scenario is not being realized. When Russian economy suffers, when Russia sees it's better for them to stop the war, then it will happen. Otherwise, I just don't even see other scenario, because it doesn't matter who will be Ukrainian president. Ukrainian people, in their majority, do not agree to capitulate to Russia, do not agree for all these demands that Russia is making against Ukraine, and that's why it's impossible to stop the war. It's the whole nation fighting for their existence, for their survival, and they will not stop defending themselves unless the aggressor state will stop invading them. So this is why I'm not optimistic about the peace in the nearest future.
All right. Let's wait and watch how this moves forward. Olena Tregu, thank you very much. We'll leave it there. Thank you for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective. All right, viewers, moving on. President Trump used a campaign-style rally in Pennsylvania to reassure Americans that the American economy is on solid ground. However, he mocked affordability concerns. Trump has argued that tariffs, investment inflows, and stock market gains are proof that America is affordable again.
And I have no higher priority than making America affordable again. That's what we're going to do. And again, they caused the high prices and we're bringing them down. It's a simple message. They gave you the highest inflation in history, and we're bringing those prices down rapidly. Lower prices, bigger paychecks. You're getting lower prices, bigger paychecks. We're getting inflation. We're crushing it. And you're getting much higher wages. I mean, the only thing that's really going up big, it's called the stock market and your 401ks.
But remember, the government data paints a more nuanced picture. Job growth has slowed in this second term. Unemployment is at a 4-year high and inflation has climbed back to 3%, higher than at any point in his first term. While gas and egg prices have eased from recent peaks, overall prices are still up 25% over 5 years, leaving many households struggling with day-to-day costs. Multiple polls show Americans remain deeply concerned about affordability. Donald Trump's approval rating on the cost of living has slumped to 31%, with half of the voters saying that prices are the worst that they've seen in their lives. Consumer confidence has dropped to its lowest level since spring. Economic indicators remain uneven as well. The economy is expected to grow 1.9% this year, slower than last year's 2.8%. Some sectors like construction have taken a hit from Donald Trump's tariffs. Food inflation is uneven as well. Beef prices are up nearly 15%, bananas up 7%, and coffee up more than 20%. Now, despite Donald Trump's claims that scarcity is turning to prosperity, many Americans say that their wages have not kept pace with costs. The president is now planning more rallies across the United States, betting that a stronger message on affordability can resonate before the 2026 midterms. Shifting focus to France now, where the French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has secured a narrow victory in the parliament. Lawmakers have given his high-stakes social security budget a narrow approval. But the battle is not over for the Prime Minister. He must pass the full budget bill before the new year begins. During last night's vote, 247 parliamentarians supported social security budget, while 234 voted against. A total of 93 lawmakers abstained from the vote. Going into the full budget proposal, Lecornu must carry this support with him. The task before him is tough. He must strike a balance between cutting down the budget deficit and winning support from the socialists. Suspension of pension reforms brought him socialist votes, remember, for social security budget. But going forward, he might have to make concessions. However, there is a way around it, a constitutional provision that allows the Prime Minister to ram the budget through the Parliament without a vote. But this can trigger a series of no-confidence motions, leading to the fall of yet another government after François Bayrou and Michel Barnier. To avoid this, Lecornu has categorically refused to go down that path. Now, the roots of the current crisis, remember, can be found in President Macron's 2024 snap elections gambit. The elections left French Parliament with a fractured mandate. 3 governments have fallen since, with no group commanding a majority. Negotiations and concessions are the only way forward to keep the current French Parliament functioning. And for more on this, our correspondent Ross Cullen is joining us live from Paris. Ross, this of course has been a crucial test for Prime Minister Lecornu. The first step has been passed. The second one, the Senate vote awaits. For him, it's been quite a victory considering the fact he's done what his other predecessors, 3 predecessors, have not been able to do. But how does the way look forward now for the Prime Minister of France?
The way forward looks tricky because the next thing for lawmakers to do in the French National Assembly will be to vote on the state budget. This is a completely separate piece of legislation from the social security budget, which was passed last night here in France. And early predictions look that vote will be even closer than the 13-vote margin by which the social security plan passed in the National Assembly. So trying to convince as many lawmakers as he had to do last night to try to to side with the government. There's no majority for the government here in France, and so it relies on the support of opposition MPs to pass legislation. The Socialists and some Green Party lawmakers did lend their votes to the government on Tuesday, and they were able to pass the social security part of the budget. And Sébastien Lecornu feels that there is a chance now of being able to approve the 2026 budget by the end of the year. However, the debates could run into January, so said the Speaker of the French Lower House of Parliament today, Yael Braun-Pivet. She said that they could be going into next month, and if that is the case, the special measures will have to be enacted, temporarily rolling over the 2025 budget into next year.
All right, so there, of course, lies a tricky path ahead. Ross, thank you very much for joining us. We'll keep coming back to you as and when the French Prime Minister gets to that crucial test, a long road ahead for the French government. Moving on, Venezuela's opposition leader in hiding, Maria Corina Machado, did not attend the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony to accept the top honor. Instead, her daughter, Ana Corina Sosa Machado, accepted it on her behalf just a short while back. Machado's daughter spoke of Venezuela's fight for democracy as she accepted this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Machado was named for the Nobel Peace Prize, remember, on the 10th of October for her efforts to bring democracy to Venezuela.
But although she has not been able to be here and take part in this ceremony, I must say that my mother never breaks a promise. And that is why, with all the joy in my heart, I can tell you that in just a few hours, we will be able to embrace her here in Oslo after 16 months living in heaven.
Now, shortly before the ceremony began, Machado said in an audio recording of a phone call that many people had risked their lives for her to arrive in Oslo. Machado added that she was very sad and very sorry for not being able to make it in time to the Nobel ceremony. Earlier, the Nobel Institute said in a statement that she is safe and is expected to arrive in Oslo by Thursday at the latest. Prominent Latin American figures attended the ceremony in Oslo in solidarity with Machado, including Argentine President Javier Milei. Several members of Machado's family, including her mother, attended this ceremony in the Norwegian capital. Machado went into hiding, remember, in her home country in August 2024, and since then has been seen only once in public. On the 9th of January in Caracas, where she protested against President Nicolas Maduro's inauguration for his third term, she was banned from standing in the election and has accused Maduro of stealing it. On Tuesday, scores of demonstrators in Oslo took to the streets against her, while Machado has been hailed by many for her efforts to bring democracy to Venezuela. She has also been criticized by others for aligning herself with US President Donald Trump, with whom she has dedicated her Nobel Prize. The Oslo ceremony coincides with a large US military buildup as well in the Caribbean in recent weeks, and deadly strikes on what Washington says are drug smuggling boats.
De todos los continentes del planeta.
From Venezuela, let's shift our focus to Pakistan, where political tensions are rising. In a fresh escalation, the country's jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party is facing a possible ban. The Assembly of the country's Punjab province has passed a resolution seeking a ban on PTI. Pakistan's Punjab province is ruled by Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, the party that is also heading the federal government. The resolution passed by the Provincial Assembly describes Imran Khan's party as a tool of the enemy state. It also calls the party anti-state and demands for appropriate punishment. Imran Khan's party is being cornered not just by its political rivals, it is also being targeted by the country's military establishment. Without naming Imran Khan, Public Relations Director of the country's army called him a national security threat. He's also indirectly accused him of spreading anti-army narrative. Now remember, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI is already banned from using its party symbol in elections, and as a result, PTI candidates contested the 2024 general elections as independents. However, Punjab Assembly resolution is just a demand for ban. It must pass a legislation to completely outlaw the party and its activities. Meanwhile, PTI lawmakers were not present in the assembly as this resolution was being voted upon. The party boycotted the session after government blocked meetings with Imran Khan in the Adiala jail. They arranged a sit-in protest outside the prison. Authorities used water cannons to disperse protesters, including the sisters of PTI founder Imran Khan. Remember, PTI has been demanding a meeting with their party founder, but they have been denied an audience multiple times by jail authorities, despite a court order allowing meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Moving on, Chile's presidential runoff election is just days away. The top two candidates took part in the second and final televised debate. Antonio Cast and Jeanette Jara took a swipe at each other on several election issues, including immigration and crime in the country. But they seemed to find common ground, as both presidential candidates attacked Venezuela's leader, Nicolas Maduro. Listen in.
It is clear that Nicolas Maduro must leave power. How should that happen? I have no doubt that the last electoral process was a fraud and that Venezuela has become a country that harbors a dictatorship and has also experienced phenomena that we are facing here in Chile, such as migration. I believe the role of the international political system through diplomacy is very relevant in this case.
You do not negotiate with drug traffickers and criminals. He should turn himself in and serve his sentence, serve the sentence for having stolen democracy, free Maria Corina Machado, and then go lock himself up in a prison in Cuba if he wants. But he must remain in jail. If he prefers, he can go to Nicaragua and stay in prison there.
Voters in Chile will cast their ballot, remember, on the 14th of December. The election is a high-stakes one for communist candidate Jara, who is the first to lead an alliance of Chile's political left. In the first round of elections, Jara secured 26.85% of the vote, while her rival and Republican Party founder Cast secured 23.92%. So far, a majority of popularity polls forecast a clear mandate for Antonio Cast, with almost 60% of the vote share. And now let's take a look at other news stories from around the world that are making headlines in the world of politics. Political sands are shifting in Florida's tourism hotspot, Miami. Voters there have elected a Democrat mayor after almost 30 years of having a Republican head. Miami's local administration, the coastal city, has elected Ellen Higgins as the new mayor. According to several American media outlets, Higgins received approximately 60% of the votes in the runoff election. However, overall turnout in the local polls has been at a dismal low. Data shows participation from just 20% registered voters. Bangladesh is gearing up for first elections after Sheikh Hasina's chaotic ouster. Earlier in the day, the country's chief election commissioner held a meeting with President Mohammad Shahabuddin. The president expressed his satisfaction on the election preparation. The formal announcement of the poll dates, however, is expected tomorrow. India's southern state of Tamil Nadu is heading for assembly elections. The state's principal opposition party, the AIADMK, has announced its chief ministerial candidate. The AIADMK passed a resolution backing Eppadi Palaniswamy as their chief ministerial candidate. Palaniswamy expressed confidence over the AIADMK ousting the current DMK government and returning to power in 2026. All right, with that, it's a wrap on Race to Power, but news and updates will continue on WION. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asia.